Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video, I will share with you a very beautiful scarf recipe that is incredibly easy to make. It is so easy to make that especially beginners who will knit a scarf for the first time with this video, I am sure they can do it very easily. I want to show you the model closely. Look, we only prepared elastic knitting. That is a very easy example consisting of one purl and one knit. But since we used batik yarn, very beautiful patterns came out. I'm talking about my yarn again, where I bought it, how much yarn I used, the size of our scarf. You can find all the details in the video. I really enjoyed working on it. It was a beautiful scarf that I completed in one day. Those who know how to knit will easily finish it in one day. But for example, if you do not know how to knit and you are knitting a scarf for the first time with this video, it was a work that you can easily finish in a week at most. I think it will not even take a week. It was a really nice project. I hope you like it and try it. Before moving on to our detailed recipe, I would like to make a small request from you. You can subscribe to our channel for free, like the video, and leave your comments. I would be really happy. Let's move on to our recipe. I bought the yarns I used for my waist from Aksa Knitting Boutique. I will add the contact information to the description of the video. You can reach it by clicking there. It is a batik yarn with 25% wool content. Look, I want to show you its texture up close. It is a thick textured yarn. I preferred 6mm needles while working with this yarn. You can choose larger numbered needles according to your own tightness or looseness. For example, if your hand is very tight, you can choose smaller numbered needles. If your hand is loose, you can choose smaller numbered needles. You can choose needles. Look, you can see different colors here. There are so many color varieties here. I bought a few colors that I liked. I wanted to share them with you. At this stage, we are using a total of 3 balls from my scarf. Each ball is 100 grams and 100 meters long. 3 balls were enough for this scarf, but if you want a longer scarf, you can increase the number of balls and work your scarf longer, or you may want its width to be wider. I used 3 balls. The short side became 20 centimeters. The long side was 1 meter 80 centimeters. Our measurement was like this. Now let's move on to the description. I will put my yarn aside and I want to show you its texture closely. Look. Now I normally use long needles here, but now I will use shorter needles in the video so that it does not touch the ground. My needle is 6 millimeters. Now when I started here, I started with a total of 34 stitches. Now, if you want a longer scarf, not 20 centimeters, you need to increase your stitch count by 2 plus 2 plus. So the model consists of multiples of 2. What does multiples of 2 mean? It is useful to say for beginners. Multiples of 2 means creating our loops in the form of 2 plus 2 plus. Now I'm leaving some short yarn here. You leave extra yarn like this. If you have extra yarn, you can cut it off. Don't have to start over again. Definitely leave extra yarn like this. Since I'm going to explain it with a small example, I won't leave too much long yarn. Let this much yarn be enough. Now I'm folding my yarn in half. I've twisted my yarn. Look, a slot has formed here. I'm holding the short yarn. I'm creating my first loop by passing it through this slot, and I immediately cast my first loop on one of my needles. Now at this stage, you may be casting your needle loops with different techniques. The important thing here is to create our loops. You may be using different techniques. You can cast your loops with the methods you know and find easy. But if you don't know how to cast on at all, if there are those among us who will cast on needle loops for the first time, I shared a very detailed video. If this video is not understood, I will share the link of the question with you in the comments, God willing. Now look, I have created the first stitch like this. Now, I am putting my yarn on my finger like this, and look, I am stretching the yarns and knitting my needle in this way. I am not holding it too tightly while knitting. Since these are starting stitches, look, I am not knitting too tightly. If you knit too tightly, it will be much more difficult to knit the first row. If you leave it too loose, it will spread like this. Pay attention to this. Look, it will be enough to be a little loose like this. Now, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8 stitches should be enough. Look, double solid 2, 4, 6, 8 is enough. About this one, I started with 34 stitches. Then I make a knot right here with this short yarn. I am tying one knot so that our stitch does not open. Now we have created our stitches like this. I immediately turn it and take my left hand to the needle. If you know how to knit plain and reverse stitches, you can knit them with any method you want. Even the way we hold the needle may be different. Some of us knit on our necks, some on our arms, it does not matter. Here I will explain by knitting with my hand now. You can knit on your neck. You may be knitting on your arm. Our stitch cast-ons may be different. It doesn't matter. You can use the technique you learned. Now the beginning and endings are important here. Now while the yarn is in front, I transferred the first stitch to the right needle without knitting the first stitch. Then I pass the yarn to the back like this. I knit the first stitch plain. Look, I knitted straight like this. I took a loop out of the loop and left the loop I knitted like this. Now I take the yarn to the front and I will knit the next loop in reverse. Look, I knitted the loop in reverse and knitted the loop. Look, I took a loop out of the loop and left the loop. Plain stitches appear as, and purl stitches appear as dotted lines. Now I took the yarn to this side again. Look, I am knitting plain on the back. The knitting consists of one plain and one purl. We knitted the plain stitch. I take the yarn to the front. Now I am knitting the next purl. I knitted it straight. At this stage, if you think I'm knitting too fast, you can slow down the video. Now I've taken the yarn to this side and I'm knitting it backwards. Here is an important tip. The last stitch will always be knitted flat. Look, this is an important tip because we want the edges to be neat like this. For this, the last stitch will always be knitted flat. Look, we knitted it straight. We knit the last stitch. We completed it like this. We turned it and immediately took the empty needle to our right hand. Look, the yarn is still in front. We will apply the same technique again. Look, we are knitting the first stitch without knitting it. The yarn is on our side. I transferred my right needle. I immediately took the yarn to the back like this. Now I will knit the stitches as I see them. Now we will actually repeat exactly the same as the first row we knitted. Look, we will knit the knitted one and the reverse one, purl. What did we do? We had already started knitted in the first row. I am immediately knitting the knitted one, plain. I knit the purl stitch in the dotted line. See the plain stitch? I knit the plain stitch in a plain way. The reverse stitch looks like a broken line. I knit this one in reverse again, the knitted one in reverse. What did we say? Reverse the last stitch will always be knitted straight, and we knit the last stitch again straight. Look, we adjusted the numbers as a multiple of 2, so the last stitch always coincides with the straight. We adjusted it by matching this. When you adjust the numbers at the beginning, you will get a regular appearance like this. Now we turned it and took our needle again. What am I doing? The yarn is in front. I always take the first stitch without knitting. Do not leave it too loose at this point. If it is too loose because we took it without knitting, the holes on the edge here will be too big. I took the yarn to the back. Look, we knitted 2 rows of the pattern. It came out right away. The straight stitches look spike by spike. I knit the straight one straight immediately. Look at the repeat of the first row. We don't actually do any different process. The reverse looks like a broken line. I knitted the reverse. The straight stitch, I knit straight, I knit the reverse, I knit the reverse, and I came to the last stitch. The last stitch is always knitted straight. And I don't leave it too loose, see? It's really a very enjoyable knitting. It goes very fast. You knit it without even looking at it after a while. Your hand gets used to it so much that it's very, very easy. I immediately took the first stitch without knitting it again. I'm starting. The process I did in the first row is to knit the knit, purl, and thus obtain the elastic knitting. Look, with a batik yarn, such a plain knitting becomes really wonderful. We translated it. Look again. I apologize. We knit the plain in the reverse, and now let's complete this row. I will show you the closing logic. I hope it is understandable. As I said, if you think I explained it too quickly, you can start the video. I knitted the last stitch plain and look, this is how the pattern emerged. Now I will show you how to close. You can also close with a needle. Let's show you how to close with a needle right away. Again, I take the first stitch without knitting. Look, I bought it without knitting as I first started. Now I will show you how to close it. I knit the next stitch plain. I knitted the plain stitch plain. Now I will skip the stitch that I didn't knit here over the stitch that I did knit. Look, you can do this with the needle by skipping stitches like this. Look, now I am knitting the reverse stitch reversely. I am both knitting and making a cut. Look, I knitted the stitch reversely. Look, I am closing this point by skipping the next, that is the first stitch. It seems easier to me to do this with a crochet hook. I bought a 5.5 mm crochet hook right away. You can use a smaller numbered crochet hook. You can do it looser. Now look, I put the stitch on the hook. Now there is a plain stitch. Look, there is a plain column. I am knitting the plain one. I took it out. I passed the stitch through the waiting stitch. Then look, in the same way, I am knitting with a needle as if I were knitting with a needle, and I am passing it through. I am knitting the stitch plain one, plain one. I left it waiting and passed it through the loop in reverse. I'm knitting backwards. I passed it through the stitch, and we were always knitting the last stitch straight. We knitted it straight and passed it through the waiting stitch. See, it is a neat closing like in the beginning. Then you can pull a chain and cut our thread and hide the short threads with the help of a crochet hook and an etamine needle. It really has a very nice look. A very easy example is like this. I want to show you its texture closely. I hope the model has been explained in this way. We finish it like this. Let me show you the texture last. It is really very beautiful. It is a yarn with 25% wool content. The texture is also wonderful. As I said, it progresses very quickly because it is a thick yarn. Those who know how to knit will easily finish it in a day. However, if you do not know how to knit at all or have zero knitting knowledge, you will easily finish such a work in a week at most. Our recipe was like this. I hope it will be useful. I wish ease to those who will do it. Don't forget to like our video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. Goodbye until we see you in the next video.